Hey everyone, this is Erica Sabo. Welcome to another episode of My Bit. Hey everybody, this is Erica Sabo. Welcome back. So after fiddling around with my camera settings and everything, I think I finally have it the way I want it to. It's taken a little bit of time, but I am pleased. I'm pleased, and I hope you are too. If you have any comments or any suggestions, please let me know in the comments below. You might also be wondering, Erica, why are you wearing a hat indoors? Because I never wear hats indoors. Well, I am in the middle of recoloring my hair, and I usually have to bleach my roots. So my roots currently are bleached to about here, and then it's pink. So I'm gonna show you like a little teaser there. You don't want to see any more than that though. This is gonna go right back down. Go right back down. So today I'm gonna be doing my part 3 for my top 20 anime of all time. I can't believe we've gotten this far. I really can't believe it. I can't believe I've talked about so many different anime, because there are so many amazing ones out there, and I can't believe that I actually have like a top 20 list that I feel very confident about. There are a lot of amazing anime that are not part of this list, unfortunately, but they for whatever reason didn't make it on here, so that's why this is my list. So I want to share with you 5 more of some of my favorites, and yeah, I hope you enjoy. So last week I wrapped things up with probably my favorite anime on this list, and that is Serial Experiments Lain. I have a penchant for very experimental, dark, psychological animes, as you might have noticed already, and it doesn't end there. It doesn't end there. Sometimes those are anime that I'm not necessarily gonna initially like, sort of like Madoka Magica. I did not like the visual style at first, however, well, there are certain parts I loved, like the multimedia aspect of it, and you gotta love Studio Shaft for that. But there were other parts that I didn't, such as the character design. Now, that I can definitely relate to in another anime that I highly, highly, highly recommend you check out, and one that is part of this list, and that is Higurashi no Nakokoro ni, or When They Cry, which don't ever call it that. Ever. Ever. So this anime is actually about these mysterious deaths that are going on in this very small village. And the story just kind of unravels into an even bigger mystery. And it's a matter of figuring out what that giant mystery is. It comes in 2 parts. So there are 2 seasons. There's Higurashi no Nakokoro ni, and then we have Higurashi no Nakokoro ni Kai. While we do get a lot of answers in Higurashi no Nakokoro ni Kai, basically wraps up the biggest mystery of them all. And I'm obviously not going to give any spoilers in terms of this, but it's very interesting in terms of setup, because there are several arcs in the first season that put together kind of parallel worlds or parallel universes regarding certain deaths that go on. So there could be a character that dies that ends up living in a separate arc. And it's just kind of a matter of figuring out exactly how these murders are happening and why they're happening. So there are a series of question arcs, and then there are answer arcs. And they do wrap up a lot of things, but at the same time you're left with a lot of questions, and that's kind of what Kai is for. Kai has a very different format in comparison, however it works very well. It works in its favor, and it creates a mystery unlike any I had actually ever seen in an anime before, and something I find very, very intriguing, considering it is a supernatural horror anime. You know, there is, if no one's told you this, there is a lot of violence, particularly in season 1. A lot of violence, and it gets pretty morbid. And when you talk about that in comparison to the actual visual style of the anime, it seems like total opposites. Total opposites. And this was probably my biggest turn off about the anime, was the visual style. And I know a lot of people have to say this too, but particularly in season 1, the character design is shit. It just looks really bad. But the more that you get to know the characters, the less that matters. And I think that despite all the muddy and lack of detail character designs, there's something very special about it and something very intentional about it all as well. Something I might not have initially realized or stubbornly refused to realize. It's actually really intriguing when you start comparing these otherwise ugly character designs with these very real emotions that start seeping inside of you. It's very unsettling. It's very unsettling. And I think that it makes it that much more intriguing. There's definitely a sense of suspense in this anime that I definitely respect a lot. And I think Kai, which actually ends up looking quite a bit better, it's a nice upgrade. It just adds to it that much more, and it makes it that much more human and that much more supernatural and so creepy and very unsettling. I would not necessarily call this a scary anime. It is not necessarily scary, it's just very disturbing. And, you know, I mean, maybe initially it might be a little bit of a turnoff for you, both visually and content-wise. However, the more you stick with it, the more you start realizing how sucked in you can become in a series like this. I highly recommend it if you are into the horror genre or are intrigued by it or into supernatural or psychological storylines. It's one that really caught me off guard, and sometimes that sense of suspense, that ability to catch someone by surprise and end up becoming something so much more is very it's very refreshing. It's very refreshing, and I find this one in particular to be a very refreshing anime. Highly recommend you check it out. Now, that sense of surprise can come from various other genres as well, and it's funny how a lot of the anime that I wrote off ended up being ones that were on this list. And another one I want to mention that was on this list was The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. I remember when this one came out in 2006 and people were talking and talking and talking about it, and I wanted to watch it, and I thought that the character design was adorable, but I didn't think much else from it. I didn't think that it was actually going to be anything good. I thought, you know, oh, well, this is just going to be your typical fan service. This isn't going to be anything special in comparison to all the dark anime I really enjoy watching. I wanted something deep, and I wanted something really inviting at the same time in its own peculiar way. And I didn't realize until years later how Haruhi Suzumiya just spoke to me on so many levels. Her herself and the anime, the quirkiness of it all, the characters themselves, whether we're talking Kion, just because of his pure just snark. He's so snarky. Or anybody, you know, Mikuru's naivete. She's just the sweetest thing, and the situation she's put in because of Haruhi, or Yuri and her, man, like, you know, obviously these characters have hit me in a way that I have a hard time expressing without spoiling things, right? There's so many things I want to spoil and so many things I'd love to say, but this anime, Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, alongside the disappearance of Haruhi Suzumiya, makes for a very entertaining anime, and one I highly recommend any of you check out, and is well worth all the praise it ever got. It got it for a reason, and a very, very good reason. Something I wish I could have seen sooner. I wish I could have been part of the bandwagon sooner. It's I can't really describe anything about it. I mean, besides the fact that it's set in a high school, like, club, basically, where Haruhi is the president of the SOS Brigade, where her and the other cast of characters are out to find the supernatural in the world and actually, you know, find some sort of truth in it all. It's a pretty bizarre concept, but it turns into something so much more, and it actually turns into, once you get to Disappearance, turns into a very clever series. It's one that has a very keen attention to detail, where there are scenes in the movie well after the series is over that connects to things that happen in the anime. It was obviously extremely conceptual. These things are planned out well ahead of time, and it all works together in a very pleasant way. It kind of gave me shivers, you know, like it was something that I really admired, and something I still very much enjoy, very much so. Now, there are 2 seasons here. Both are, in my opinion, equally good. Some of you might say otherwise with season 2, particularly in terms of the Endless 8. I won't explain it because I don't want to spoil it, but if you are familiar with it, then you know what I'm talking about, you know. However, there's something very intriguing about the Endless 8 as well. I found very intriguing. And yes, I got through the entire season watching every single episode, and yeah, sometimes it was pretty jarring, but then there were some parts of it that were so worth every minute of it. So worth it. Everything about this show I find really entertaining, and if you meet somebody who hasn't watched an anime before and is really intrigued and really interested, I would actually show them Haruhi Suzumiya. I would definitely show them. I think it's a really intriguing gateway, and it kind of pokes fun at anime in general. It pokes fun at stereotypes in animes, archetypes, and all that. It's a really nice parody, and it's very very truthful anime at the same time. It's very true to what it is. It's not afraid to be what it is, kind of like how Haruhi isn't very afraid to be who she is. She's pretty proud of it. So yeah, it's something else entirely. I haven't come across a series quite like it in its genre, which I guess would be coming of age, I suppose. Something like that. But yeah, that attention to detail was something that I'm sure you'll be really keen on as well once you see it. Attention to detail can be probably one of the winning factors of certain animes, particularly because it offers that much more passion. It just means the studio just put that much more into what they did. I find that really admirable, I guess you could say. And one anime in particular that I was totally blown away by, that I was not expecting to be nearly as good as it was, that is very keen on that attention to detail, was Nagi no Asukara. Now, I did a review of this anime because I was just so blown away with it after I watched it on Crunchyroll, and I was following it avidly. I was talking about it on Twitter, I was talking about it on Facebook. I was just totally in love with it. You know, I had my own ships and everything, you know, Chisaki and Sumugu all the way. All the way. There's a reason why I'm cosplaying Chisaki. She is an amazing character and one I could connect with personally on various different levels. There's something very special about this anime, a romance coming of age anime that made it stand out from the rest. Not in every respect, like it's not a totally original idea by any means. However, it brought together characters and a sense of emotion that I don't see enough of. There's a lot of subtleties in the relationships going on, and there's a very, very big love polygon that goes on in this anime, and a lot of it deals with this love polygon, and it's also a lot about family and about home and finding your home and finding who really loves you, who are people that you should cherish in your life. There's several different themes in terms of belonging and in terms of closure and moving on and growing up and all these things, and I think in every respect the anime was able to pinpoint each of those feelings in a very human manner. There are particular times where even the slightest of glances will give you a glimpse into what that person is thinking deep down inside, even if they don't say a word. It's really interesting, especially when you watch it a second time through, because I think you start realizing and you start seeing those connections happening sooner than you might have anticipated earlier. You know, there are things that you might not catch, and it's pretty heartfelt when you do catch those things the second time around and you start realizing, oh, okay, so that's when that character started having feelings for that other character. It's very heartfelt in that way, and it's very sincere about those feelings too. It's something that I mean, I say this kind of stuff a lot. I say I respect, I admire, but I don't just throw those words out there. Like, this is a big deal. This is something that, if it deserves it, it deserves it. I say it if it deserves it. And in this case, this one very much deserves that. It deserves all the respect it gets. It deserves all the praise it gets. There are times when I feel like people stubbornly ship characters together that they want for to be together that don't end up being together. But, you know, it's not your story, you know. Even if you wanted it a particular way, the story is the way it is. Sure, you can read fan fiction, go ahead, you know, but the story is the way it is for a reason. And I think that it wraps things up in a very deep, sincere manner. It's one that I really enjoy, and considering it's a much newer anime, it came out last winter, I'm really intrigued by it, and this is actually my first foray into PA works, but this is not my last. This is not my last. This was actually a really great gateway into the studio and seeing what they have to do. So I highly recommend it if you are looking for a coming-of-age romance story, unlike a lot of the generic ones you might come across. I'm really pleased by it, and I think you will be too. Now, I know some of you might still think otherwise because you're looking for more what you would consider maybe real emotions. Something as realistic as you can get. You want those raw emotions that you wouldn't be able to get otherwise. And yes, Nagi no Asakara can be a little bit fantastical in certain aspects. It's supposed to be to an extent, particularly in its concept. But if you want something that is totally real, something that I think anybody can relate to in terms of coming of age, that is Nana. If you're not familiar with Nana, it was originally based off of this really amazing manga series I'm a big fan of, same creator of Paradise Kiss. Big fan, big fan of Nana, particularly because it displays such raw, realistic emotions to a whole other level. Like, this is very different than Nagi no Asakara in several ways, and it's just something that if you don't like that, you might find this even more appealing. Now, Nana is about belonging. Nana is about coming of age and figuring out who your friends are and who they aren't. It's literally just a story about life and life's hardships and life's nicer times, and there's just everything that you might have to deal with in life. You can expect, at least to some degree, in Nana. It's a very beautiful anime that I can't really pinpoint any other anime that deals with emotions in that real of a manner, and have a concept and have a story that's that realistic to an extent. You know, it's also not afraid to go to more moments of despair either. Nana is a shoujo that I've been following for a long time, and when I was growing up, it was one that I felt like I was searching for my entire life. I was reading a lot of shoujo. I was reading like Fushigi Yugi, I was reading Cirrus, and I liked them a lot, but there was something very overwhelming about them because I just couldn't totally relate to them. But then when I came across Nana, I think I found something else. I think I was reading like Shoujo Beat when I had first found out about it, and I was amazed. And then finding out about the anime and seeing what a great adaptation it is from the manga, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. It deals with some extremely real emotions, and it has some very pleasant characters. It has some really upsetting characters too. It has some really upsetting moments in it. It has some really joyful moments too. It deals with life, you know, like you'll be able to sympathize with a lot of what the characters have to in this anime or manga, and sometimes you won't, but you'll still have a sense of empathy towards them, and you'll still realize that kind of that sense of loss or that sense of gain in some way. It's something else, and I definitely recommend you check it out if you're looking for something very real in that respect. Now I'm going to be throwing a bit of a curveball in this last anime pick of the week. This anime is not terribly real in its emotions. It is to an extent. It has its serious moments, definitely, but it's way more energetic. It has way more oomph to it that you wouldn't get otherwise, and is considered a classic amongst anime, and that is Trigun. Now, there's a lot to say about Trigun, and Trigun is actually really hard to review just because there's so much involved. There's just so much that I want to be energetic about, and I just can't be nearly as objective and portrayal. But in my mind, I can be, and in my mind, like, it is just a very fun-loving anime, such as many others were during the time. Actually, I like to put Outlaw Star, Trigun, and Cowboy Bebop in a bit of a trio. I found them to be really amazing, and they all came out around the same time. You know, whether we're talking in the story itself, and we're exploring exactly who Vash the Stampede is and why he has that giant bounty on his head, and is he really a threat? No, he's actually just a pacifist who really likes to eat donuts. You know, like, there's something really, really interesting about Vash and how jovial he is and just how fun-loving he is, and such an innocent character, yet is such a badass at the same time. You could say the same thing about Wolfwood as well. What a badass. Or you can say, you know, hilarious characters like Millie and Meryl. Wonderful characters, very timeless characters that are very memorable, characters that you will never forget. You'll remember to some extent. So, I mean, there's a lot going on in here where there's a lot to explore and there's a lot of fun to have. This is a really great adventure, and if you know someone who is looking for a gateway, looking for something to start out on, Trigun is a really great example, particularly also because it is a classic, and it creates a very nice base to other animes out there, I feel. It's something that I really enjoy a lot, and I had some really wonderful memories with growing up. There was something about it that I can't quite put into words, and something that I don't know if I've experienced anything quite as hilarious, quite as silly, yet still be serious. You know, towards the end of the series it does get a bit slower and it does become more serious. However, it never loses its identity as this silly, fun-loving anime. You know, and you could say the same thing about the movie that came out not that long ago either. That was Trigun Badlands Rumble. That was just fan service, basically. But it was a really nice little look in the story, like right in the middle of it, kind of like Cowboy Bebop's movie that came out as well. Kind of happened right smack dab in the middle of the story. Just another adventure of all the giant adventures that happens to these characters. Just another one that you might really end up loving. So yeah, I mean, honestly, I can't praise this one enough, and I don't know if I want to keep on going with all this gushing and everything, right? But it does have something that I find so alluring and so fun. You really need to check it out for yourself if you haven't, or if you're looking to get someone else into anime, this is a wonderful, wonderful gateway I'm sure they will enjoy. So I hope you enjoyed 11 through 15 in my top 20 anime of all time. This was a very fun one because it was just kind of, it was connected but it wasn't, you know, like it was, there were points in it where, like for Trigun, like there's no way in hell I can really compare it to something like Nana, but it was, it made it fun, and it kind of like changed the pace, and it changed the otherwise serious, somber tone that you might have gotten from some of the others to an extent, right? So this is another really fun episode, and I'm very excited to be doing my finale next week, next Friday for you guys, and let you know what my last 5 top 20 anime are. This is going to be a doozy. There are some anime here that I am very keen on, anime that you might have heard of, you might not have heard of, but it's stuff that I gotta let you know about, and I gotta express. You know, like, I know your backlogs are probably through the roof right now. I can totally sympathize with that. My backlog is always through the roof. I always have a bunch of anime to watch, but you know what? at least you got it. At least you have a backlog. There's nothing worse than not actually having anything in your backlog. So let's think cup half full, right? Yeah. So I really hope you enjoyed this week's top 20 anime of all time part 3, and I hope you tune in again soon for part 4, and I hope you check out parts 1 and 2 as well if you haven't already. So please let me know more of your favorite anime and why, and anime that you might be watching right now that you're really intrigued by, even if they're not necessarily your favorites, but what about them do you like? What are you watching? Are you watching something on Funimation? Are you watching a fan sub? Are you watching something on Crunchyroll? Just tell me. I'm really curious. I'm sure I'm also going to be doing a lot more like anime reviews after this is done too, but you know, weekly vlogs, this, and then my monthly, like not monthly, my giveaway that's going on right now is it's going to take up a bit of time considering I do 3 videos a week, but after that's over I'm sure I'll be getting back into a bunch of video game reviews and anime reviews and all that fun stuff. Lots of plans going on. So yeah, I really hope you enjoy, and please tune in again soon for another video. Alright, peace.